What's this? Ebola, exactly. Now, it turns out that this is the original micrograph that was taken at UT Medical Branch about 20 years ago. But, of course, the reason that we care about it is what's going on here in West Africa. These are the latest numbers, in fact, from 21st of November. Here, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, number of cases up to thousands of cases, particularly around the capital of Sierra Leone right here. Total number of cases now, again, this is just as of last week, looks as if, interestingly enough, in Liberia and Sierra Leone, the numbers are coming down. On the other hand, cases in Guinea really seem to be taken off. So certainly problematic as far as that's concerned. There's huge amounts of actually really good information on Ebola. Here, this particular one, the case counts, where I just got it from. The numbers, again, as of last week, 15,319 cases, 5,404 fatalities in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone. Started in March, so it's been quite a few months now. Say, well, the 25th, so March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, so 8 months. There have been 4 cases been diagnosed in the U.S., and so when you first look at the numbers here, it's sort of like, okay, where did they get the 4 from? But anyone who was diagnosed in West Africa and brought here doesn't count in terms of those numbers. And 1 fatality. In fact, the U.S. is listed, if you go to the CDC website, as being a place where Ebola is circulating, because we actually have people with Ebola here, or in that incubation period afterwards. Nigeria, Senegal, and Spain, on the other hand, no current cases. So if anything, they're doing better than we are. Nigeria did a really wonderful case tracing and keeping the outbreak under control. There was 1 person who came into Nigeria. 20 people ended up coming down with the disease. 8 of them died, but no one else. Senegal, 1. That person survived. Same thing is true in Spain. So how do you know if you have Ebola? Fever, headache, fatigue, diarrhea, vomiting, stomach pain, unexplained bleeding or bruising, muscle pain. I have fever, headache, fatigue. Anybody have fatigue? Yeah. So everyone's like, well, do I have Ebola? Do I not have Ebola? So a couple of things to think about here. Top things you need to know about Ebola in the CDC. First, dog or cat is not spreading Ebola, so Anna Louise is safe. Food and drinks imported into the United States from West Africa are totally safe to eat and drink, unless they're bushmeat. That's a different story. But mosquitoes do not carry Ebola. They are the deadliest animals in the world, way more so than 5,000 cases so far in 9 months. Family members returning from countries with Ebola do not pose a danger to you unless they're symptomatic. So, not a problem. Household bleach and other disinfectants kill Ebola. Wash your hands. Really good. We'll get back to this one. Ebola is not airborne. There's been lots of discussions, media, web, you name it. What happens if it goes airborne? Oh my God, it's going to go airborne. We've been studying viruses, certainly in terms of medical virology, for at least 100 years. There have been no cases, 0 cases, of viruses which are transferred through bodily fluids, like Ebola, that then have switched to becoming airborne. So, sure, it's possible, but extremely unlikely. There also are some physical reasons why it's extremely unlikely that this will actually take place. So that's one reason why airplane travel is really not a problem. Unless, someone vomits all over you while you're on the plane, which usually vomiting occurrences happening on planes have absolutely nothing to do with disease. They're usually food poisoning. Only spread once you have symptoms, but again, symptoms, fatigue, etc. So it turns out that for Ebola spread, it's usually the really nasty symptoms. And in fact, the best way to get infected with Ebola is to bury somebody who's died of it, because that's where the amounts of Ebola are actually the highest. You can't get Ebola from a handshake or a hug, even with someone who is pretty sick, unless, again, the fluids end up, and they've got to get into a cut, your eyes, etc. Has to get through these mucous membranes. If you're feeling sick in the US, don't think Ebola. Think flu. So, what's this a picture of? Influenza. Exactly. So, this is electron micrograph influenza up here, and then this is the influenza virion down here. Got 9 little segments of negative strand RNA, totally cool process how it replicates. That's not what we're going to talk about for the rest of the time here. This is where influenza is. Not in West Africa. It's here. These are various different levels. See anywhere in the US where there's no activity of influenza? No. Sporadic, most places. Local, here we are. And this is out for week ending November 15th. If anything's going to be higher this week, I'm guessing. And then in warmer places, there's actually more of it. If, again, you go to the CDC and look at how many people have died, not so much people who have died, but this is kids who've died of the flu in the US. In any given year, it's on the order of 100 in the US of kids who die of influenza. This year, we've already had one, and it's really early in the season. So how many people have died of Ebola in the US? People, total. 1. How many kids have died of influenza this year? 1. If you just look at number of specimens tested, very small number. CDC does a surveillance process throughout the whole US. They've collected about 10,000 specimens so far. 1,000 of those are positive. And again, if you go back and look at the CDC site, 5% of all deaths reported are due to pneumonia and influenza. It's hard to actually say whether a death is particularly due to influenza. But 5% of all deaths in the US, it's a lot. If you look at what viruses are in the vaccine, all of the 2009-like viruses that have been tested so far, not a huge number of them, are in the vaccine. 56% of actually should be H3N2 tested are in the vaccine, and 44% are related. All of the B tested are in the vaccine. What's the Ebola vaccine? Non-existent. How many of you had your flu shot? I don't know your name, so I'm not going to. Flu spreads really well about 1 meter away from people. So just think about where you are right now. So get your flu shot, because this is something you can prevent. And this year, it turns out that the vaccine's pretty darn good. Usually it is. The problem that we had with the almost 200 kids dying of influenza, that was because of the 2009 flu that the vaccine was not very good against. It also happened a lot earlier in the particular process.